Hello everyone. So for this video, I will show you how to create a Jenkins CI pipeline and do a code analysis on a GitHub repositories. So let's start now. So first log in the GitHub and then go to your repositories. I have already created this particular repository for this particular video tutorial. So just simply click on this particular repository, click on code, and then choose HTTP and copy paste the URL. For this particular URL, I will share with you separately. And then once you got this particular URL, you can just simply click on create new repositories on your own GitHub account. And then you will notice there's an import a repository. So you can just import the repository, Jenkins CI pipeline templates, and then just give a meaningful name. For example, let's say my Jenkins CI pipeline. And you can choose either to make it public or private. So just begin import. It will take a few seconds to clone the repository from my template to your own GitHub account. So once it's complete, the process bar will indicate that. So let's wait for it. Maybe let's refresh to see whether it's completed or not. Okay, so you have already completed. You just simply click on this particular repository. Then you can find out I have already cloned the repository, Jenkins CI pipeline, to create a new repository. So this is the repository that we are going to use to test the CI pipeline that we are going to build. So basically, the pipeline is going to check out this particular repository and then do a code analysis under SRC folder to do a code analysis on this app.py to identify whether there's any issues or not. Okay, so let's start our journey now. So we go back to the repository. This is all the steps that is done. So basically, you can just copy paste out to open any text editor to just save it to follow it accordingly. So just let me quickly create a text editor. Okay, so I paste into my Jenkins repository. So basically what I did is that I paste in a text file for me to follow my steps through the videos. Okay, so let's execute here. So as well, you can see the first step actually is to create a Jenkins server in AWS. So now let's go to AWS console. So just Google AWS console. And then you see AWS console management. Now we need to log into the AWS. If you have not created an AWS account yet, please register an AWS account and use the free tier for this particular video tutorial. So now we can search EC2 instance service. So now here it will show the EC2 service here. So what we are going to do is that we're going to launch an instance. Choose the default Amazon Linux 2. Choose the free tier. And here, click on Next Configure Instance Details. So just go down a little bit. Find out there is a particular section called User Data. So if you just now you copy paste the whole README file, right? Actually, there is a list of comments here. So you'll see for step 1, use below comment to create a Jenkins server in AWS. So you just copy paste the whole content into the user data. Basically, what it will do is that once the AWS is launched a Linux server inside, it will execute this list of commands. Basically, this list of commands is to install the Jenkins server as well as Git and the Java and whatever software that is required for this demo. So let's continue. So let's click on review and launch. So now here we review the security groups. You will see that the default security groups will only allow the TCP protocol on port 22. But for our scenario, we will need to access the Jenkins server via port 8080. So just click on edit security groups, add rules, input port 8080, and then just leave as a allowed anywhere to access our server. Then we just click on review and launch. So now if everything is okay, then we just click on launch. And you can just choose to create a new key for this particular instance. And then you choose the key pair type as RSA and keep a pair name called Junkie. Maybe I just call it EC2 Junkies key. Okay. Then you can download the key. Just remember to save this key properly. Though we will not use this key for this particular tutorial, but eventually, if you want to do any remote login to a particular server, you will need to use this private key. So now let's launch our instance. So now you will see that your instance are now launching. So click on this particular instance. So you will notice that just now there's 0 instance here. Now it's 1 instance. And the status for this particular instance is pending. Basically means that in backend, AWS is trying to provisioning the instance for us. And then we just need to wait for a while. So during the time we are waiting, actually, we need to double check that whether we set up everything correctly. So we need to first check on security. Scroll down a little bit to ensure that port 80 actually is allowed for user to log in. If that is set up properly, then we can see what other information that is also available here. So we can also check the network details for the public IP address, which is what we will use to log in the Junkie server when the provision is completed. And you can also find other information such as storage, status check, monitoring, and text. So now let's refresh to see what is the status now. It will take a while for AWS to refresh the status. So let's just be patient. So you see now the instance is already running, means that the operating system is already running. So now the status check is still under initializing, which means that the AWS EC2 instance is still making the preloading of the configuration that we put inside, especially that just now we put inside for the user data to install Java, install Git, install Junkie servers. So now let's wait a little bit more. So in the meantime, probably you can also check there's a Singapore location here, because this AWS EC2 service basically is a regional specific. So basically, when I launched this particular instance, I was launched in Singapore, because the distance between the server and the users will impact the performance of your server, such as the network latency as such. So just remember that choose Singapore as the default location in case that we have any performance issue. And we can also review what other information that is done here. So you can also potentially use the elastic IP addresses. The purpose to use elastic IP address basically is to ensure that your EC2 instance always has a permanent IP address that associated to it. Because if you don't use the classic IP address, the elastic IP address, if you notice that this particular IP address that currently assigned by AWS actually is temporarily assigned to your EC2 instance. Whenever that you terminate or restart the EC2 instance, the IP address will be randomly reassigned again. So now let's check the status again to see whether it's back or not. I believe it should be more or less there. Let's take a look. Okay, so you will see that status /2/2 check passed. So basically everything is set up correctly. So we have already completed the first step. Now we are going to the second step to log in the EC2 instance to check the status of Junkie server. So the easiest way to do that is that you tick for this particular, select for this particular instance. You will notice there's a connect button here. So this basically is list down different methods that you are able to connect to EC2 instance. The first is the EC2 Instant Connect. The second one is Session Manager. If you are interested, you can read through more. Another very popular one is SH Client. You can use SH Client to log into the EC2 instance, and then you can follow the instruction here. The last one is the EC2 Series Console. If you are interested, you can read more about it. So for this video, I'm going to show you EC2 Instant Connect. So you don't need to change anything because the default user will be EC2-user. Then you click on connect. So it will automatically open a new browser to connect to your institute instance via browser itself. So now you will see that we have already entered a remote EC2 instance. We just need to run this particular command to see what is the status of our Jenkins server. So now you see that our Jenkins server is active and running. Just ensure that you have the same screen as it is. If not, then you just rewatch the previous few minutes of video to ensure that you follow the step exactly. Okay, the next step, we are going to generate a key pair for the communication between the Jenkins server and GitHub server. So let's do that. Okay, we just need to give a name of this key pair. Probably we can say Jenkins GitHub key. Okay, and then we can leave the passphrase empty. If you want to enter, you can always leverage on that as well. So now it shows that it successfully created a key. So just let's check the directory. And then we can just use the cat command to see the content of the key. So this is the content of the private key. So we need to copy paste out. So later we will use this to set up the Jenkins credential. Be careful when you copy paste the private key information. Just need to ensure that the first line and the last line here are included when you copy. Basically, you need to copy paste the entire private key informations. Copy, and then we just paste it in any place. Probably I just paste it here. And similarly, we do the same thing to check the public key, Jenkins.p. So now you'll see this is the information for our public key. We just need to copy paste the same. I think the remote server is a little bit slow. Let me see. So you just need to ensure that you copy paste the whole content. And then similarly, I record it down here for our later usage. Okay, so now we follow the next step. We have already checked the status is up. We generate the key pair. Now let's retrieve the initial Jenkins login to the Jenkins portal. So we just copy paste this sudo cat to get the initial admin password. What is this? Never mind, just ignore this. So we run this command. Then we will get these tokens here, this particular password here. So we just copy paste this. We also list down it somewhere. Maybe I can just simply list down here, retrieve the password. Okay. So next, we are going to log into the Jenkins servers. So now we can close this particular window to end the session. And then we go to the instances. You can copy paste the public IP address. And then you just open another browser. Remember, we set port 8080. So now we will be able to successfully log in to see this unlock Jenkins get start page. If you are not able to reach this page, just to double confirm that for the security settings, you are allowed the port 8080 to allow the user to access it. Okay, so now let's continue. Just now we already get the initial login password from here. We just copy paste the password here, continue. Never save it. So now you just click on install selected suggested plugin. It takes a while to generate that. So let's see what else we can do for now. So now actually we can go back to our GitHub. So let's go to the settings. We can actually create a public key in the GitHub. So after we go to the settings, we just need to find out this SH and GPG keys here. Then we can just click on new SH key. We call it Jenkins GitHub. Okay, so now if you still remember, just now we copy paste this particular key here. Is the key looks a little bit weird? And no, I think it's correct. So let's paste it. Okay, add SSH key. So you see, now this is a list of SSH keys associated with your account. Then we can use this one to communicate with the Jenkins servers. So let's see what else we can do from here. So we have already completed the step, create a public key in GitHub. Okay, the next step, we are going to generate a GitHub key, token for Jenkins to do the repository checkup. So let's do that. I think it's the same panel. So it is the same panel here. In case you forgot how to navigate to here, just click on here and then click settings. It will be the same page with the same navigations here. So now let's look at another option called development settings. In the last option, there's a personal access token. So you just need to generate a new token. So we just going to say that Jenkins GitHub token. Okay. Expiration date, you can set whatever that you prefer. 30 days, let's say. So we need to allow the Jenkins to access our repositories. So I just tick it here and then scroll down a little bit. I don't think we need other options here. So we just click on generate token. So now we have already successfully generated token. Be careful, just keep this token carefully because you will only see it once. After you leave this page, then you will no longer be able to see it anymore. So let's paste the token here for our later usage. And then if let's say I refresh the page, then you'll see the token is gone and then you will never be able to see it again. So in case if you lose your token, you either generate a new token or delete this token or update this particular token here by regenerate it. Okay, so now let's back to see whether the Jenkins server has already been set up. I think it will take a little bit longer, so we see what else we can do for now. Add credentials. We have already completed this. We have already completed generate tokens. Okay, so probably now we can do add webhooks. So now what we are going to do here is that we are going to go to our repository. Remember this is my Jenkins CI pipeline. Click on that and go to settings. Inside this navigation panel, you can see there's a webhook. So we can just add a new webhook. Basically, this webhook, if you see the description, basically is to allow external service to be notified when certain events happens. So in this particular tutorial, we want the events to be the git push to feature one branches, and the external service will be the Jenkins pipeline. So let's add a webhook. So you will see here, we just need to follow this particular name convention. We can get the IP address from here. And then we can get the token that just now we generated to paste it here. Then we will have the webhook URL. Ensure that it is correct because they may have mistakes such as you have the double slash here, or you may miss something here. Just ensure that everything is correct. Then we just copy paste and go back to the add hook page. Clean the payload. I think there's a small bracket here. You see, there's a typo here. So we need to fix that. So just be careful whenever that you change anything here. Okay, so now it looks all good. So you choose the content type as JSON. And then you can just choose just the push events and then leave the active tick and then click on add webhook. So now we have successfully create a webhook on push event. So we can just click here. And then you can always see the deliveries that is recent. So you will see the latest delivery actually is failed. You will see a question mark here. And if you go to response, I think it's request. I think there's some place that I can tell you what happens. Let me see. Body. Okay, so we just leave these messages here because we have not set up the webhook pipeline. So later we will, once we set up the pipeline, we'll go back to check it again. So now the plugin is already being installed. So you can just give any name that you feel convenient, commit the password, and then put some email address. For this demo purpose, I will all put dummy information inside. And then you can set save and continue and click OK. So here we'll also tell you that you can always access the Junkie server where this particular URL here. So save and finish. Okay, so now we can start to run our Junkie servers. So you will see this particular page. Then we see next what we are going to do. So just now we have already logged in the server and installed the plugin. Now we are going to add the credential to Junkie servers. So go to Manage Junkie server, Manage Junkies, and then click on Manage Credential. Then hold over to this global, click on this arrow to click on Add Credentials here. So here we are going to choose to use the SSH username with the private key that just now generated. And then we leave it as it is. We just say that give an ID, maybe anything will be fine. Junkies, git. Okay, then probably description is copy paste the same. Username is my username. I treat the username as a secret and click on the private key. So let's go back to the private key just now we generated here. Remember to copy the very last line here as well as the very first line here. So now we copy paste the whole chunk of the key here and we key in. Because just now when I created, I didn't create any passphrase. If you do create a passphrase, please include it accordingly. So click on OK. So now we have set up a credential called Jenkins Git. Later we will use it when we build up the pipeline. So now let's go back to the README file. So now you will see that we have already created a credential in Jenkins. We create the public key just now. We generate the GitHub token. And then we also add a webhook. So now we are going to install a plugin called generic webhook in this Junkie server. We go back to the dashboard. We click on Manage Junkies. Click on Manage Plugins. And then click on the Available tab. So just search for webhook. Then you will find out generic webhook triggers. Just tick on this checkbox and then click on Install without restart. Then it will start the installation. The installation should be quite fast. So just let's wait for a while. Okay, so now installation has already done. So next we are going to create a pipeline. I think I double entry here, so that doesn't matter. Just create a pipeline. So we go to the dashboard, create a job. We call it a CI pipeline demo. And then you choose the second option, pipeline. Click on OK. So now click on the build trigger. You'll see that there's an option called generic webhook trigger. If you do not see this option here, basically means that you have not installed the generic webhook trigger successfully. So just go to a couple of minutes ago my video to look at that particular portion, how I install the plugin accordingly. Okay, so once we click the generic webhook, so you will see that actually this is the trigger URL request. This is the same as what we just now write in the payload URL here. So we have the Junkie URL generic webhook trigger invoke, and then we have the parameter token with this. Okay, then we will add a post content parameters. I think it's ref, and the name of variable expression, then $ref. Actually, I have also listed down it here, so you can, if you can't remember, you can just always refer to here. And next, we are going to scroll down a little bit, put the token here. So you will see the token just now we generated by GitHub. Just copy paste the token to here. Next, we scroll down. Okay, we specify a optional filter. We just copy paste this REAF//has/feature1, and then the text is $REAF. We can copy paste $REAF. And now we are going to generate pipeline here. So now we're just trying to create a hello world. We create a two-stage pipeline. First is to check out feature one branch, and then we copy paste. Just ensure that you copy paste correctly with the correct curly bracket together, and then paste it. Then second step is to do the code analysis. Okay. So this is the template that we are going to, two steps we are going to execute for this particular pipeline. So now we are going to generate the actual code. So you will see there's a pipeline syntax here. Just simply click on that. They will open another page to help you to generate the scripts. So now for here, the stages number one is to check out from the version control. Basically, it's GitHub. And then we just need the URL of GitHub. So we go back to our repository. We copy paste our URL. Ensure that this time instead of HTTPS, we copy paste the SSH for this particular script. And then we go back to the pipeline. We copy paste it here. Don't worry if you see this message. You just click on credential. Then the message should run. Yes, so now it's successful. If the message is, if you still face error message at this stage, just recheck your private key that you entered just now. Ensure that the last line and the first line is included. Also, if still the error is there, I would suggest you to regenerate the key pair for public and private key and re-enter for both GitHub and Jenkins servers. So now we have already entered the repository URL. Next is that we want to specify to look at feature one branch, which is the branch we want to do the code analysis. So all the rest looks fine. Then click on pipeline pipeline script, and then copy paste the whole thing back to pipeline. So now the first stage we will do checkout for the remote repository for feature one branches. So the second step, we are going to do a code analysis on the source file. So if you go back here, if you look at create pipeline, actually I have already prepared the scripts here. You just need to copy paste inside here. Just indent a little bit. So now you will see that basically for this particular code analysis, what it will do is that it will create a Python version 3 virtual environment inside your EC2 instance, and then it will install a package called Flake 8, and then you will use this Flake 8 to do code analysis on this app.py. So in case that you are not familiar with Flake 8, you can just always Google it to see what is that. So basically, this is your tool for style guide enforcement. If you are interested, basically it will do a format checking for your code. If you are interested more, you can just open the official site to understand basically what is this package do. But for this particular tutorial, I just tell you that this one will do a code analysis for this particular file, this src/app file in our repository, and report any issues with our code. So now we can save. So basically we have already successfully create the pipeline. So now the next step is just to trigger the event. So now we go back to our repository clone. So now if you see by default, the repository only have a main branches. So now in order for us to simulate the push event on feature one branch, we just create a branch, feature one branch for that. So now I'm going to open Visual Studio. Actually, you can use any tool or even the command line to do the same. So I open the Visual Studio. So now I click on this three dot here for the source control management. The folder currently is cannot open. Oh, I see. Then instead we will do click here. Click on, you will see the source control here, right? So just click on this three dot here. view more actions, and then you will see clone. Here you just paste the URLs. I think we use the HTTP URLs. Remember, we use HTTP URLs, and then we paste it here, paste in this box. So we are cloned from this particular URL. Then we will need to choose a place to save it. Then I just create a folder. Let me see how to create a folder here. That is interesting. Oh, here, I have folder button. And then we can create a CI demo and create. So now we create a CI demo. You can create any folders in any environment, either you are using Windows, Linux, or Macs. And then you just select this repository location. And then after it clone finish, you can just open the location of the code. Now you will see that this is the clone repository for this GitHub repository. So now let's create a feature one branch. It's very simple and straightforward. So if you notice that at the bottom of this particular repository, there's a main branches. You just click on that, and then choose create a new branches. Type feature one. Click enter. So now you will see that the label here changed from main to feature one. Basically, this indicates that you have successfully created feature one branch on your local repository. So now let's push this particular repository to the remote repository. Click on this three dot here to go to the source control, and then go to the push event, push. So it will say that the branch feature one has no upstream branches. Would you like to push and publish this branch? So okay, yes. So just wait for a little while. We go back to the repository, refresh it. Now you will see that we have created a feature one branch successfully. Just click on feature one branches, and then you will see the SRC folder. Click on it, you will see the app files. So now let's check whether our webhook are triggered successfully. So we go to setting webhooks, click on this recent deliveries. So you will see just now when we push from this local repository to remote repository, basically this has already been pushed successfully. So whenever you make changes in your local repository and then you push to the GitHub server on feature one branches, then it will trigger these push events. So now let's go to the remote server of Jenkins to see whether the pipeline is correctly triggered or not. So let's refresh. It seems it's not triggered. Last failure. So we see there's a failure here. So let's look at what is the issue here. Just click on pipeline. Okay, you'll see. So it is already triggered, and then there's a failure. So let's look at what is the failure here. So now logs here. Let's go down a little bit. So you will see that the missing white space after the comma, multiple imports on one line. So that is what I expected. So basically what this pipeline does is that first it check out to feature one branch is success, and then it do a code analysis on this particular Python file, and they report that these two issues. One is the I think it's like okay, click. One issue is the import multiple imports on one line. Another issue is the missing white space after comma in line 1 and line 8. So now we are going to fix these two issues inside this particular Python script. So we are going to split this one into 2 import instead of 1. And then we add a space in the last line between the comma and time. So now we should be able to pass the pipeline test called the analysis test. We just save it. So now if we save it, you'll see there's a modification label here. Just remember to stage it in the staging area, and then put a commit message fixed format issue on app.py. And then we can click on this tick to commit it. Once we commit the changes, we just click on this three dot to views and more control actions, and then we push the changes to here. So now we issue another push command from my local repository to remote repository. So by wrap, the webhook just now we created will deliver another message to the Jenkins server to trigger the pipeline to rerun again to check the code. So now let's see what happens, whether it's correct. So now you will see that besides that, it trigger another pipeline. Now you will see the two stages have actually completed successfully. So basically, this pretty much about this tutorial. So what we covered today basically is to create a CI pipeline via Jenkins server to simply check out a remote repository as well as do a simple code analysis. So thank you for watching, and feel free to leave any comments under this particular video. Thank you.